moving on. Gonna hand over to Jared and Chris. Who would like the slide control? I can only give it to one of you guys.
Yeah, give me the control, but I think Jared is starting us off with the talking.
No worries. Take it away, guys.
Yes, hello. I'm Jared. I'm one part of a massive team of two here at 1NZ that do automation using Rundeck. We've been doing it for about it's 3 years as well. It sort of it came somewhat out of frustration. We've been a telco with sort of 20 plus years of technology in there, and so we work on things right from 2G all the way up to 5G. So there's quite a spectrum of technology there to work with, and also a spectrum of engineers and skill sets as well. We we help teams across the technology domain, so not any specific one. That's kind of the idea here. And when the team was established, the idea was basically go out, have a look at all the teams, and try and understand what the kind of low value day-to-day work was within those teams, and see how we could automate that, so that we could free up engineers for more higher value work. So we started on that journey and had a look around for tools and platforms we could use to do that. And Rundeck eventually won that. And so Chris and I have been working on it amongst other platforms since. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself, Chris.
I'm just trying to click advance on the slides and wondering, it's seeing some very slow reactions.
Right.
So I'm the other offsider with Jared. So I'll let you talk to that one, Jared. I'll get the next bit.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so basically what we sort of scoped out our team in terms of what we would do day to day was we would come up with a platform that could connect into network elements so that we could sort of automate some of this work that we were seeing engineers do, and answer kind of a few challenges that we were seeing amongst technology, similar to sort of what we heard before around many scripts sitting on many servers, not really much governance. All doing good stuff, but we wanted to try and centralize that, and then put a bit more guardrails around it, so that we didn't have single user accounts tied to a particular script, and these kind of challenges, as well as improving security and the like. And this was backed by our kind of management, and we would go out, look for any scripts or anything that were what that was being used within the teams, and after building the platform, bringing them into Rundeck, as well as building up projects for each team. And the ultimate idea was we would build and support the platform, and then we would train engineers how to use Rundeck so that they could develop their own jobs and basically automate their own stuff, rather than us building the jobs for them. That's me.
So we looked sort of, I think, similar to Samuel, looking at something that would support people with different languages and experience, good user interface. So we did look at Ansible with Tower. We actually end up using that elsewhere in the business. Looked at things like Puppet and Chef, and a few reasons. One was some of those you need quite a bit of learning the ins and outs of that particular domain-specific language. You've got to learn that Ansible YAML layout. The custom node execute is a big thing, and then that ability to start on the community version and add enterprise later if we wanted that support, which we have gone for. But our overarching thing was really, we wanted to take all the pain away and make it easier for our end users as automation people. So, deal with all the firewalls, deal with the platform, the credentials, take all of that annoyance out, and you can just write a script and get on doing what you want to do. Right, so a little bit about the environment we run. So mentioned we're on the enterprise version. We've got a development cluster as well as a production cluster, both 2 nodes each, with the Oracle database for the Rundeck database and network file storage. We don't use a load balancer. Our support team has suggested we should. But for us, if one of those nodes goes down, we're a network team. We go to the person that runs DNS and say, please update DNS, and she does it, and it's done in 5 minutes. So whatever. Promoting from our development environment to production, it's always through Git. So one of the big things for us in moving to Rundeck and having that more controlled environment is that now all these scripts that people used to have sitting on a box somewhere, they're all in Git, and we have some change control around them. So that's been one of the great things for us.
Cool. And so yeah, here's a little bit of a representation of the growth and kind of uplift in the tool over time. And so yeah, we've got about 10 projects, which equates 1 per team. Those teams go right from the RAN environment, closest to our customers, right into the core, and then all surrounding and underlying infrastructure that facilitates a call or a text or a data session. There's about 100 users in there, and probably about 10 solid developers that get in there often. 350 jobs. With about half of them scheduled. So this is quite a common use case for us, is where people were doing things, periodically, either daily or even multiple times a day. We would definitely try and target those jobs and bring them in. 13K executions a day, and that'll be due to some of the granularity of these jobs in terms they might be running every 5 minutes, this kind of thing. We're not into runners yet, but we are looking at that at the moment. And we do like to use some custom plugins as well to sort of make the job development process easier for the most part. And that might be things like a custom database plugin where you just put in some details and tell it what data to take, and then it can go ahead and connect in and drop that data into a database, or sending emails, these kind of things. So and as you can see, the growth's been going quite good, pretty solid. We started on a community version as well, to sort of get a feel of what the platform was like and whether our strategy was going to work. And then that, we had quite a bit of growth there and interest, and then that moved us on to enterprise. And then since then, in the last year, we're basically a critical platform now, where it can't turn off anymore, so that's a good thing, I guess. Connectivity, sorry, yeah. So for the most part, we're talking to Linux nodes, but also quite a bit of network equipment, which is a little bit different to most systems that you'll come across. This is another reason we've had a look at custom node executors. As in the telco environment, some of your CLI terminals are not what you'd expect, and therefore they need to be treated a little bit differently. Again, like we're working with some gear that might be almost 20 years old, and it's probably closer to something like a mainframe than it is to a server. And they speak slightly different language to what we might be used to on a terminal these days. And so we have to cater to that too. We've also got into Windows environments in the last year as well. So that would probably be our most common types of nodes that we're talking to.
Cool. And just a few APIs that we use both internally and some stuff out on the internet. So not managed as nodes within Rundeck, but those are other things we connect to. Looking a bit wider, our integrations, that's sort of all the things that are connecting into our system. I'm not going to go through them all, but just to give a feel. So at a kind of system level, we use Dynatrace to monitor it. The authentications with Active Directory, so we use LDAP for that. Mentioned earlier about the Git for our job storage. So that's the kind of stuff Jared and I have to deal with. And then for the end users developing jobs, we've got integrations with ServiceNow, so that's our incident management system. Both to raise an incident into ServiceNow, but also we want to be able to trigger a job from ServiceNow, like I think something you were doing with Jira. PagerDuty for callouts. We have integrations with our data lake and our file storage, and as Jared mentioned, a local database just to make that easy for our end users. Our thing is always, let's build the kind of common bits of the puzzle that the end users need, and they're just having to piece that stuff together. Right, some use cases, Jared.
Yeah, so common use cases we see across the teams might be node health checks. So that's going to be, connect in, run some commands, pass some output. If this, do that sort of thing. Might be notify, might be call out, that kind of thing. Usually they're on a schedule. Yeah, data transiting and manipulation is quite a big one as well. So for kind of performance monitoring use cases and things like that, again, you might have a job that's logging in, running some commands, transforming that into some sort of time series data, and then going and dropping it somewhere else where it can be vizzed. User account management's another one that's sort of, another one of those sort of low value common operations tasks where you're adding and removing users. So we try to make that easier by creating a job and putting it in front of them. And then, yeah, self-service to external teams. So this one we've been doing a bit more in the last year or so, and that's where we're basically taking work that ops teams used to do, wrapping it in a job in a sort of safe and secure way where you can't break stuff, and then actually exposing that job to teams outside of technology so that they can go ahead and do that themselves rather than having to, follow that sort of typical waterfall process of emails or tickets or whatever. Yeah, and then as a particular, so we've got a voicemail retrieval use case in there. That was one. A family or for some reason someone might want to get the recording of a voicemail for a given family member or something like that. And prior to the job, that was a ticket that went into a queue that an engineer had to go and pick up and log in somewhere, pull it out, email it somewhere, and eventually it would get back to the customer. But yeah, now if you go through the steps there, Chris, so it's a command that logs into a Linux host. It's going to run a script on it that will pull out the voicemail log, transfer the file via SFTP over to somewhere else, email the audio files to the user or the requester, and then delete the file after. So it's a pretty closed process, and it just that's just one example of how we can simplify some sort of day-to-day work there. Okay, challenges. Yeah, so challenges here, ROI and sort of justifying automation, that has been a challenge over the years. It's getting a bit easier now as we've matured sort of with the platform and as a team and our surrounding processes. But for example, when we were looking at how we could show the benefits of automation, we thought about, time saved. This is a pretty typical one, and then they can try and turn that into FTE hours or something like that. But the thing is if you're calculating time save on job run, and then you've got a job running every 5 minutes every single day, suddenly you get this really huge number that doesn't really have any meaning anymore, because it's saying, oh yeah, we've saved, hundreds or thousands of hours to date, but that's because the job's running all the time, and a human wouldn't have done that all the time. So it's a bit of an interesting metric. It can be useful, but it can also just kind of get blown out of proportion where it's not useful anymore. So yeah, that's been an interesting one. Training the teams again. So 20 years of telco, lots of technology, various skill sets, but trying to find a skill that is known across the board is pretty difficult. And so we've spent a lot of time trying to transition the teams into kind of modern networking practices, and that's using different understanding markup languages, using Git repos, scripting, but maybe picking and choosing some certain languages and then agreeing to use them across the teams so that teams can learn off each other. Like Samuel was sort of saying before, it's a whole lot easier to manage if you're using just a couple of languages rather than all of them. And so we spend a bit of time working on that through things like drop-in sessions, which we'd have weekly for an hour, and that would just be an opportunity for any engineers or any ops team to dial into a call and ask questions about automation. We'll just sort of help them out on the call. Yeah, as a way to sort of both upskill and promote what's going on in the automation space. And due to sort of this work today, we've basically turned it into a critical platform now. Yeah, so that's probably a good indicator that things are working and people are using the system.
Yeah, some challenges with the tool itself. Bit of a dig here, I suppose. The edit button, all of our new users are like trying to click around to edit a job. It's over on the right one day and then it's on the left the next. Throws them every time. The plugins has been a little bit of a challenge sometimes. So, to compare to things like Ansible and Grafana and some of the other kind of open source stuff out there that's got hundreds or thousands of plugins. I mean, you've got to sift through the weeds to find the good ones as well. But it'd be great to see some better support, I think, from the wider PagerDuty community on that. Individual user logins, this is the way we operate. Whenever we're logging into an element, it's as the user that's running the job. So we don't use that kind of service account to log into our host. We're always using a real user account, and trying to map that to the Rundeck users caused us a bit of grief. Don't recommend if you can get away without that. It's just something security kind of pushed on us. We do a lot of local executions running on the host itself. So whether it's maybe calling an internal or external API. And so there's the kind of security things we're concerned about there, where you've got access to run PS and see who's doing what else on that box and check out some passwords and things. Moving to runners is our plan to get away from that problem. Load monitoring is a tricky one. So we've got our first quarterly review next week, I think, a week after. So we're hoping to get some insights there, but that's been a bit of a tricky one. So yes, we know how to monitor a Linux server, but how do we track that back into it's this job running at this time that's causing all your system load? And the pricing model. So we've had a look at the catalytic thing. I forget what you guys call that now as a service, but that kind of workflow automation. Our big thing we'd like about Rundeck was that we bought the product and now our end users don't have to think about pricing. They just get stuck in and do stuff. Whereas that idea of you've got to pay per use case really just puts people off. That's the same problem we get with things internally like ServiceNow. You want to get development in there? Cool. Come back when you've got $10,000 cash in a project code. It just kills so much of those DIY sort of automation that we want to support. But we did get some benefits.
Benefits. Yeah, so obviously reliability and repeatability. So in centralizing this work, we're removing it from potentially only a single user being able to use it like it was before. People would have scripts on their local machines and they would just run them when needed. But if someone else wanted to do so, they might not have access to that, or they might have an older version of it, or these kind of things. So being able to bring it in somewhere increases our reliability and repeatability of the work. Self-service is a big one. Like we said before, we're only a small team. So being able to just have the foundational components to automate stuff and then give that to the teams and train them how to do it is a real bonus for us. They don't have to go and ask someone to do it. They can just go and start to do it themselves. And if they get stuck, we can support them on it. So that's pretty cool. Build once, security approvals, firewalls, again, so by kind of centralizing this stuff, we can take care of all of that, again, making it all easier for the engineers to just go ahead and develop it. They don't have to worry about firewall. They don't have to worry about architecture review and, box ticking. They can leave all of that to us. We get it sorted. We do it once and then it's done. Doing stuff we wouldn't have otherwise, and having this platform, we've been able to do things like expose jobs to teams outside of technology, which we haven't been able to do before. because there wouldn't have been a secure way to, give them access to whatever system, so that they could go and do this job. And yeah, so that's been quite a good one. That's had, some positive response. Again, yeah, lift in skill set just by having it there. People are learning more. It does simplify the processes a bit, or remove them completely when we go and kind of review a process that's going on, that we want to try and automate. And kind of analyzing that process, you flesh it out, and sometimes you realize, like, actually you don't even need that step there. And so it's not that you even automated anything. It's just that by looking at the kind of the process end to end, you identify some things that might not even need to be there, and so that can be quite a win as well. And then having a TAM, Luke, that's always great. We have a weekly call with him, and we can discuss anything Rundeck. He's always got plenty of knowledge there, and he helps us out a lot with the support side. So that's really cool.